My name is Alice Whitmore. I turned 85 this winter. I live alone in the same little white house my husband and I bought in 1974, just outside a quiet town where everybody still waves from their porches and tomatoes still taste like tomatoes. Every morning at 5:40 before the sun fully rises, I wake up without an alarm clock. And every morning I thank God for one very simple thing. Not money, not luck, not even long life. I thank Him that at 85 years old, I can still swing my legs out of bed without groaning like the floor and I are in a fight. 'Cause let me tell you something honest. Most people think getting old automatically means getting weak. They think pain is unavoidable, that exhaustion is normal, that by your 80s, your world is supposed to shrink down to a recliner, a television set, and a weekly pill organizer. I used to believe that too. At 71, I could barely walk through the grocery store without leaning on the cart for support. My knees burned, my ankles swelled. I dreaded stairs the way people dread bad news from the doctor. And the worst part wasn't the pain. It was the fear, the quiet fear that follows older people around like a shadow, the fear of becoming dependent, the fear of hearing your children whisper in the kitchen, maybe Mom can't live alone anymore. Nobody says it to hurt you. But once those conversations start, something inside you changes. You begin questioning yourself every time you forget where you put your glasses, every time your back hurts, every time you feel tired before dinner. That fear nearly consumed me. Then something happened that changed the direction of my life. My younger sister Evelyn fell. One small fall. That's all it took. She slipped trying to answer the phone too quickly one rainy morning. Broken hip, hospital, rehabilitation center, then assisted living. She never came back home. I remember visiting her 3 months later. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, spiritually. Like the world had quietly taken pieces of her independence one permission slip at a time. That night I came home, sat at this same kitchen table, and cried harder than I had cried since my husband died, because I realized something terrifying. Aging wasn't what destroys people. Neglect does. The little daily habits, the tiny choices repeated over years, that's what decides whether you stay strong or slowly disappear. So the next morning, I started changing my life. Not all at once, not dramatically. I didn't join a gym. Didn't buy expensive supplements, didn't suddenly become some health fanatic in matching yoga clothes. I simply created 5 morning habits, 5 ordinary things I do every single morning before most people finish their first cup of coffee. And those 5 habits changed everything. My doctor still shakes his head during my appointments. Last year he looked at my chart and actually laughed. "Alice," he said, "your inflammation markers are lower than patients 30 years younger than you." Now, I'm not telling you this because I think I'm special. I'm telling you because I spent most of my life believing strong old age belonged to somebody else. Good genetics, rich people, fitness people, people with personal trainers and green smoothies and fancy watches tracking their sleep. Not ordinary women like me. But I was wrong. Strength in old age is built quietly. In kitchens, in routines, in ordinary mornings, nobody applauds. And the very first habit changed my body more than anything else. I call it the stillness rule. Now listen carefully because almost nobody does this anymore. The moment most people wake up, they attack themselves. Phone, news, stress, emails, noise, thoughts racing before their feet even touch the floor. Your nervous system wakes up under attack. And when you live like that for decades, your body never truly rests. At 71, that was me. I'd wake up already anxious, already tense, already exhausted before the day even began. Then one morning after church, a retired nurse named Gloria told me something I never forgot. She said, "Alice, your mornings teach your body how to age." That sentence stayed with me. So I changed the way I wake up. Now when my eyes open, I stay completely still for 10 minutes. No phone, no television, no rushing. I place one hand on my chest and one on my stomach, and I breathe slowly. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. At first it felt ridiculous. I actually remember thinking, this can't possibly matter. But after 2 weeks, something strange happened. My shoulders stopped feeling tight every morning. My heart no longer raced the second I woke up. My headaches became less frequent. And the biggest surprise? My balance improved. My doctor later explained that chronic stress affects everything: blood pressure, muscle tension, inflammation, sleep, even coordination. We think aging destroys the body. Sometimes it's decades of stress doing the damage while aging gets blamed for it. Now every morning I let my body wake up slowly instead of shocking it awake like a fire alarm. That single habit changed the rhythm of my entire life. But the second habit, that one may have saved my independence completely, because most elderly falls happen during the first hour after waking up. Nobody told me that until it almost happened to me. I was 73 years old. I stood up too quickly one morning and the entire room spun sideways. I grabbed the dresser before hitting the floor. That moment terrified me. Not because I fell, because I almost did. And once you reach a certain age, almost suddenly matters a great deal. So now I follow what I call the 2-minute rule. When I sit up in bed, I do not stand immediately. I sit quietly on the edge of the mattress for exactly 2 minutes. During those 2 minutes, I rotate my ankles, flex my calves, move my toes, wake my circulation gently. Young people don't understand this. They think standing up is automatic. But after 80, circulation changes, blood pressure changes, balance changes. Your body needs transition time. And giving it those 2 minutes can mean the difference between independence and injury. My neighbor, Frank, refused to believe this. Wonderful, stubborn man, 82 years old, thought slowing down was weakness. One morning he jumped out of bed to answer the doorbell, fell backward in the hallway, concussion. 3 cracked ribs. He told me later, "Alice, I thought I was still 40. That's the danger. Aging punishes denial faster than almost anything else. You don't win by pretending you're young. You win by becoming wise." That's what these habits really are. Not tricks, not hacks. Wisdom repeated consistently. And the third habit, well, that one changed my legs so dramatically my granddaughter accused me of secretly exercising at night. Every morning before breakfast I walk. Not far, not fast, not impressively. Just 20 minutes, rain or shine. I walk the same quiet road near my house while the morning air is still cool and the birds sound half asleep. Now here's the important part. I don't walk for weight loss. I walk for circulation, for joints, for balance, for mobility, for independence. People think strength comes from intensity. At my age, strength comes from consistency. 20 minutes every morning became stronger legs. Stronger legs became confidence. Confidence became freedom. And freedom. Freedom is everything when you're old. You know what terrifies older people more than death? Losing control of their own lives, needing permission, needing help for basic things, feeling like a burden. That morning walk gave me back something I didn't realize I was losing. Trust in my own body. At 74, I could barely walk around Walmart without pain. At 85, I can still carry my own groceries, not because I'm extraordinary, because small habits compound quietly over time. That's the miracle nobody talks about. Bad habits compound, but good ones do too. And one morning at a time, your future body is being built, whether you realize it or not. That became painfully clear the day I visited my high school friend Margaret. She was only 2 years older than me, but she had completely stopped moving after retirement. Television all day, sleeping in, rarely leaving the house. When I visited her, she struggled to stand from the couch. Not because she was old, because her muscles had forgotten their purpose. The human body adapts to whatever life you give it. Movement creates movement. Stillness creates decline. That frightened me enough to become disciplined. Not motivated. Discipline matters more. Motivation disappears when weather changes. Discipline survives moods. So every morning I walk. Some mornings my knees ache. Some mornings I feel lazy. Some mornings the bed feels wonderfully warm. I walk anyway. Because one truth becomes crystal clear by 85. The body rewards what you repeat and punishes what you neglect. Tomorrow morning, before the world gets noisy, before the television comes on, before stress enters your chest, pause for 10 quiet minutes. Sit before standing. Then move your body gently before life steals your attention. You may think small habits don't matter. I used to think that too. Until small habits gave me my life back. By the time I turned 76, people around me started noticing something had changed. Not dramatically. I wasn't suddenly running marathons or climbing mountains or dancing on tables at weddings. It was smaller than that, but somehow more powerful. I moved differently. I walked into rooms without hesitation. I got out of chairs without bracing myself first. I stopped making those little pain noises older people make without realizing it. You know the ones. The sigh before standing, the groan when bending over, the slow, careful shuffle holding onto walls and countertops. Those sounds had quietly disappeared from my life, and people noticed. My daughter noticed first. She came over one afternoon while I was carrying laundry downstairs. She stared at me halfway down the staircase and said, "Mom, why are you moving better now than you did 5 years ago?" I laughed, because I had been wondering the same thing. The truth is, the body responds unbelievably well when you finally stop fighting against it. For most of my life, I treated my body like a machine. Push harder, ignore pain, keep going, sleep later, rest someday. That works at 30. It destroys you at 70. The fourth morning habit changed that completely, and honestly, it's the simplest one of all. Hydration before stimulation. Now listen carefully, because this habit alone reduced my joint pain more than any medication I ever tried. Most people wake up dehydrated. 8 hours without water will do that. But what do most people reach for first? Coffee. Caffeine before hydration. Stimulation before support. That was me for decades. I'd stumble into the kitchen half asleep and pour coffee into an empty, dehydrated body like gasoline into a dry engine. Then I wondered why I felt shaky, why my muscles cramped, why my energy crashed by noon. Everything changed because of one conversation with my doctor. At 75, I complained constantly about stiffness in my knees and lower back. He asked me a strange question. "Alice, how much water do you drink before noon?" I thought about it. "Almost none, just coffee." He leaned back in his chair and said, "Your joints are starving." That sentence stunned me. Starving? He explained that cartilage, muscles, discs, and connective tissue depend heavily on hydration. Without enough water, the body becomes inflamed more easily. Stiffness increases. Fatigue increases. Balance even worsens. So I created a morning ritual. Every morning before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else, I drink 2 tall glasses of water slowly, not ice cold, room temperature. And sometimes I add a squeeze of lemon because it makes me feel refreshed and awake. Now I know younger people may hear this and think, "That's it?" Yes, that's it. People underestimate simple things because simple things aren't exciting. But aging successfully has almost nothing to do with excitement. It has everything to do with consistency. Within 1 month of morning hydration, my leg cramps nearly disappeared. Within 3 months, my skin looked healthier. My headaches became rare. My digestion improved. And the strangest change of all, my energy stabilized. No more afternoon crashes. No more feeling half dead by 2 p.m. My neighbor Carol started doing it after watching me for months. She called me one morning laughing and said, "Alice, I think I've been dehydrated since 1987. We both laughed so hard we cried. But she wasn't entirely joking. Many older people are quietly dehydrated every single day and assume exhaustion is just aging. Sometimes it's simply neglecting the body's most basic need, water. Imagine that. At 85 years old, one of the greatest lessons I've learned is this. The body speaks softly before it screams. Dryness, fatigue, stiffness, brain fog, poor sleep. These are whispers. Ignore whispers long enough, and eventually the body raises its voice. That's when medications increase. That's when independence begins slipping away quietly. I decided I no longer wanted to ignore whispers. And the fifth habit, well, that one healed something deeper than my body. It healed my loneliness. Now, this may surprise some people because I live alone and genuinely enjoy it. I enjoy the quiet. I enjoy my routines. I enjoy not explaining myself to anyone. But living alone and living isolated are two very different things. And isolation destroys older people faster than almost anything else. Faster than sugar. Faster than inactivity. Maybe even faster than smoking. I learned that after my husband Walter passed away. For almost a year, I slowly disappeared from my own life. I stopped visiting friends, stopped going to church regularly, stopped answering phone calls sometimes. Grief makes the world feel far away. You don't notice isolation happening at first. It arrives quietly, one canceled invitation at a time, one lonely evening at a time, until suddenly days pass without meaningful conversation. That kind of loneliness changes the body. Sleep worsens. Energy drops. Appetite changes. The mind grows heavy. At 74, I remember sitting alone at my kitchen table thinking, if this is old age, I don't know if I want it. That thought scared me enough to change. So every morning after my walk and breakfast, I started one tiny habit. I call someone. That's it. One person every morning. Sometimes my sister, sometimes a neighbor, sometimes my grandson, sometimes an old church friend. Not long conversations necessarily, just connection. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, enough to remind both of us we still matter. That habit changed my emotional health more than therapy ever could, because human beings are not built for total isolation, especially older people. We need purpose, conversation, laughter, recognition. We need someone to notice if we disappear. My friend Eleanor stopped speaking to people regularly after her husband died. Within 2 years, she changed completely. Forgetful, exhausted, suspicious, depressed. Her doctor kept adjusting medications. But honestly, I think her heart was lonely. Loneliness ages people. I've seen it with my own eyes. That's why I refuse to isolate myself now. Every morning after breakfast, I connect with another human being before the world becomes busy. And something beautiful happened because of it. I stopped feeling old. That may sound strange, but it's true. Conversation keeps part of your spirit young. Laughter wakes up the soul. Purpose sharpens the mind. At 85, I still volunteer twice a week at the church pantry. Not because they desperately need me, because I need purpose too, and purpose changes how people age. You can see it instantly. People with purpose walk differently, speak differently, carry themselves differently. The body responds to meaning. That's something science is only beginning to understand, but older people have known forever. A reason to wake up matters. A reason to keep moving matters. A reason to stay healthy matters. Without purpose, the body slowly begins surrendering. That's why these 5 habits work together. Stillness, gentle waking, movement, hydration, connection. They seem small separately. Together, they change my entire life. And I want to tell you something important before we finish today. None of this happened quickly. That's the mistake modern people make. They want dramatic results immediately, fast transformations, quick fixes. The body doesn't work that way. Real healing is quiet. It happens in ordinary mornings, repeated faithfully. You won't notice huge changes after one walk, one glass of water, one calm morning. But 6 months later, you suddenly realize stairs don't scare you anymore. A year later, you notice you haven't felt dizzy in months. 2 years later, your doctor stares at your test results in confusion. That's how transformation really happens. Quietly, gradually, then all at once. I'm 85 years old now. I still clean my own house, still drive myself to church, still garden in the spring, still climb my porch stairs carrying groceries. Not perfectly, not effortlessly, but independently. And independence becomes precious beyond words once you realize how easily it can disappear. People ask me constantly, Alice, what's your secret? There is no secret. There are only daily choices. Tiny ordinary choices repeated long enough to become your future, and tomorrow morning your future begins again. This morning, just before sunrise, I stood on my front porch holding a warm cup of tea while the world was still quiet. No television, no noise, no rushing. Just birds waking up somewhere beyond the trees and the soft sound of wind moving through the yard Walter planted nearly 40 years ago. And I had a thought I wish someone told me when I was younger. Getting old is not the tragedy people think it is. Neglect is. Giving up is. Believing your best years of strength are automatically behind you is. At 85, I no longer chase youth. I chase peace, mobility, clarity, independence. And strangely enough, those things made me healthier than I was 20 years ago. Not because I became extraordinary, because I finally became consistent. That's the real secret nobody wants to hear. Strong aging is usually built through boring things repeated faithfully. Sleep, walking, water, quiet mornings, purpose, human connection, less stress, more gratitude, tiny habits, tiny choices, tiny moments most people ignore. But life is built from tiny moments. I think about my sister Evelyn often. After her fall, she once grabbed my hand during a visit and whispered, "Alice, don't stop moving." I never forgot that. So every morning I move. Every morning I breathe. Every morning I choose to participate in my own life instead of surrendering to fear. And if you're listening to me right now thinking, "It's too late for me," please hear this carefully. No matter your age, your body is still listening to how you treat it. Your mind is still adapting. Your muscles are still responding. Your future is still being shaped by what you repeatedly do. Not perfectly. Repeatedly. You do not need to become a different person overnight. You simply need one better morning, then another, then another. That's how people quietly save themselves. One peaceful sunrise at a time. My name is Alice Whitmore. I'm 85 years old. I live alone. And by the grace of God, I am still living life on my own 2 feet. And tomorrow morning, I'll begin again.